Hello and welcome to Wally Bra. Now, in some previous videos, I've been showing you how to, or my journey of learning how to cut slots in louver shutters. I know how I used to do it. In fact, I used to use a jig, and I made a new jig for the router. But recently, I've been using the table saw, and I found it being more accurate in many ways, and I get a better finish. It still looks a little bit furry, but it's only on the edge, and there's literally the material that's been taken out and it's sort of like folded over. So just a quick sound on there, it just disappears. So that's not an issue at all. So I've been using the dado head and the sled that we made. Now the sled is reversible, so that can either go that way or it can go that way. 45 one way, 45 the other way, because all little louvers are set at 45 degrees. But you see, when you have something that long, you can get an accumulative error. Now this method of cutting these slots, it's commonly used for creating box joints. You know, little finger joints and corners of boxes and what have you, jewellery boxes or whatever you want to make. And it's really, really easy. But obviously you would have the fence perpendicular, so there's no need to reverse it. For me, I've got to have one side or the other. It's a mirror image. So I made this, and I made it with this little registry key, or I don't know, it's for the synchronisation to get more in the same place. But like anything, you're going to have a tiny amount of error from one to the next, right? And just like if you're using the bit you just cut to measure the next piece of wood on the chop saw, and you did that several times in the course of the day, well then, needless to say, your last piece is likely to be slightly longer than your first piece you cut. Well, the same type of thing potentially can happen with the sled, and I have already had that issue. I kind of assumed it's going to happen, but then I didn't really prepare for it. But there's a way to prepare for it. Now, I've worked out my head now, and it seems to work. The thing is, you see, like anything like this, you're very reliant on the accuracy of machines, your sled, how good in the slot, lots of, obviously how you hold the wood as well at the same time. There's just too many anomalies, so you're going to get an error. So you need some sort of visual guide, really, so you can see if you're running out. Now, on this one here, what I did is, if you can see how I started running out on that one. It's not as far as it looks actually, because that's actually wider than the slot. But it's slightly running out on that line. So basically what I did is I put some extra lines on the side, not just where I start and where I stop, but also two, maybe three of them along the actual rail itself. Now what I found is that I could actually persuade, let's say for instance it was becoming, the distance from end to end was becoming too short, and I could visually see that as I went along. I could actually influence it by how I pushed that against the little key head, because there is a tiny amount of movement, and the cumulative, it builds up, doesn't it, over a period of time, so you can bring yourself back on point again. And the same in the other direction, so you put a little bit that way or a little bit that way, by a tiny amount, about half a millimetre, that's all it is. But you get half a millimetre over 10 slots, well, that's like 5 mil. Out. It's that tiny little amount you can run out. You've got to be really, really careful. It's probably like half a millimetre, to be honest. But so what I'm doing now, like for instance, we'll cut this one in a second so I can show you. I've got my start, which is there, okay, and I've got my finish, which is there. So on the side which I'm going to be looking at, which will be this face here, this possibly here, not with a pencil. I've got to make sure I can see my start, my stop, and I mark them as such. So I eye up down that line and put a new line across the face, and let it start, and then I'll do the stop next. I put end. It's there. It gives me a visual guide. You can run out a little tiny bit, it's not, but you don't want to end up accumulating so much. It's just, you look at it shut and it's sort of looking like that, with all the little loops. One side is straight, but the other one's down there like that. It's going to look absolutely awful, isn't it? It doesn't look very professional at all. So what I've done is I've split this one into 3. Not exactly, just roughly, just a rough guide. So once I get so far, I can say, okay, am I running out? And if it's a yay, well, then I'll correct accordingly at that point, I'll even recut the first slot. Because if you're not, if you don't know this already, what you have to do is you have to cut one slot first without the registry key in, and that slot then sets the registry for each slot after that. Make sure that it lines up. So that's what we're going to do now. So we'll start with that one there, okay? And I'll keep an eye on it as I go along, and if I start running out, I will try and correct it. If it's a case that I've gone too far, I will recut it. Generally speaking, I haven't had to do. Well, not generally speaking, I haven't had to do that yet. So, why did I say generally speaking? It's a silly thing to say, and it doesn't make any sense. So, what we're going to do is cut our first slot first. And I'll line up my 2 marks with my slot, because the slot in the sled is the same width as the dado stack, which is about 1/2 inch. It's an old one. They're actually illegal now in the EU. They have been for some while actually. They were banned years ago because they were considered dangerous. Well, I've been using them for donkey's years, so I don't really understand that. It's like a lot of things. They are faff, and I think what it is, you put it in the hands of the individual to make sure they do it correctly, or put it in the machine correctly, and some people don't. And I think there's been accidents or something's gone wrong, and obviously why would they do it? Somebody's hurt himself. So there's a new one actually. I think it's CMT has brought out one that's actually legal. It says legal in the EU. It's up to a certain sort of like standard, CE mark and all that sort of stuff, whatever safety standard. Here in the EU, so that's like 27 member states it's legal in. So at the end of the day, you want things to be safe, don't you? So I might look at that and see if I can invest in one, because they're blooming handy. And mine's getting old anyway, how many times that's been sharpened. So what we'll do, make the first cut, hold it to the fence, but also to the sled as well. Make sure you've got no, especially on that first cut especially, there's no little shavings, little chips in the way. That's going to influence your cut. Otherwise, you're not starting as you mean to go on, are you? A bit like foundations. Get your buttons nice and flat, and then everything will be hunky-dory. So the first cut. And that cut will influence or register the next cut. The first cut. Oh, it's the right place. I was looking at these lines and I'm spaced up, that's not quite right. But I look at the actual line on the top. So right, good thing it's the pencil you see, I ain't sharpened it. So that's an instant fail. So then I moved over to on top with my little registry key. I don't know what you call it, a registry or was it a synchronisation? I'll do a few when I get close to that mark there. If I have to correct it, I will. It's so much better than using a route, I tell you. If you have issues like I do, see that's actually worked out perfectly. Well, it looks perfect to me. Look. See, that's not far from mark. That's my first mark. Just, it's tiny, but you see if I carried on, being, that's about half millimetre out from that distance to there. If I carried on like that, that's going to end up being a millimetre out there. You know what I mean? So, as long as I can get to those marks there, in line, I'm fairly confident the bottom ain't going to be running out too far. That tiny bit, you got yours. One other point, on this particular sled, because it's 45 degrees, what you can do is, if I pull this as I hold it towards me, it's putting along that registry key and it taps it harder against the fence. But I suppose that could also cause the coos to know. You can even just keep an eye on it, really, can't you? And just correct as you go along. Each one here now. See, this one's running out. I've run out on that one. So what I can do, if I've run out, where's my little guide? Let's check out my guide. Let me just check this against here. I guess it's another piece of wood. That's one there. That's one there. I was a bit worried it's running out, but no, it's not running out. Well, I was about to recut it. This is where you've got to check and double check stuff. I'll show you just a second. Let me just put these little whack some grips on there so I can actually show you what's going on. So I'm going to have to move it towards you. I'm just literally putting some hand clamps on. Lined up on the end. Alright, so there's two on here, clamped two together. The ends are lined up, that's good. Now, this is when you need to check and double check things. I made a boob on that mark. Alright, I've made this little guide, like a marking gauge, and I obviously wasn't holding it to the side properly because that isn't 45 degrees. My marker put on there at 45 degrees. So I need to remark that. This just proves, you know, I'll show you everything, you know, warts and all. Yeah, where's my pencil behind my ear again? Oh, blimey, on the hat. I can't actually hold a pencil behind my ears anyway. They always fall out. That's one of the reasons I like wearing a hat, because I don't put a pencil there. No, I'm not bald. Or someone comments that I'm bald. Yeah, when you wear a hat, you're bald. I've heard that one before. Once or twice. No, I've still got hair in there, just about. Yeah. And many people say, are you putting on a voice? I'm not. I've got really serious thyroid issues. To the point that at some point I might not be able to speak at all. It's that bad. So, I'll keep the channel going as long as I can. It's damaged my I've got fibromyalgia and it's with the thyroid as well, and it's with the voice box, you know, your vocal cords, they're damaged. It's not doing the job properly. The muscles around them basically are pulling in the wrong directions or something. So I've been told they're not doing their job properly. So I've remarked that. So it was actually looking okay. So is it running out? Maybe on the short side. Yeah. So. Okay, see, it's the thing you say, you know they say like measure twice, cut once and stuff like that. Same applies really, you've got to check things as you go. Otherwise you can just absolutely destroy your workpiece just because you've got carried away with something, made the assumption you've done it right. And, you know, we all make mistakes after all, don't we, you know? And especially if you're learning. So, always scribble out the mark, your old mark, if it's wrong, get rid of it. I can't remember which one it is. 9 times out of 10 you go for the wrong one. So yeah, I messed up here. So hopefully, now if I put that on there, back onto that registry, that one. So, I would say, it's okay, I'm actually going to recut it, because it's slightly out. Got the cumulative error of about 1mm. So, it makes sense just to recut. And, you know, if you've got a tiny little bit of misalignment as you go down, no one's going to notice. No one. But if it all accumulates to the end, out there, it's going to look a mess. You have to start again. So I'm just checking that on there, so I'm happy. Line it up, so effectively starting again. Obviously it's done so quick when you're not talking to a camera. Yep, that's right. There we go. 2 more to go. Let's have a little check also. Once you've done all your cuts, make sure you just look along and make sure they've gone the same depth all the way along. It's quite easy when you've got a long piece like that to actually not put enough pressure on it, it lifts, and then you'll end up with a shallow slot. It'd be really annoying. I haven't done that yet, thankfully. Look at that. Another clue of error. Just want to move it along a little bit. Line it up. Good. Nice one. So you've got to correct as you go along if you have to. Sometimes you don't need to, you know, it's just luck of the draw. We're talking tiny little tolerances, just a little tiny bit difference between each one. By the time you're done, like how many ones are here? That's what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 15, 20 slots. So if you're out by half a millimetre or even a quarter of a millimetre on each one over 20 slots, by the time you get there, if it's quarter of a millimetre on 20 slots, you're 5 mil out, aren't you? You know, it's easy done. And 5 millimetres, you might think that's not much, but when you get them side by side, and you're looking eyeing up with all these visually, the last one's going to look skew-if. A millimetre on the occasional one, ain't going to make any blooming difference whatsoever. You know, there might be a better way of doing it, but this is what I'm using at the moment, and I'm quite happy to use it as long as I keep an eye on what's going on. You know, you could put more registry marks along your shut if you like. You could split it into 3, split it into 4, 5, or as many as you like. If you just sort of keep an eye on what's going on, you can mark every single one if you're that nervous about it. I don't think you need to, mind. The little jig, the sort of sled here is working well. I do need to put a block of wood over the back here on the back edge of the fence. I should show you basically what this is. You know, there ain't nothing here on the back here, right? So if you're going all the way through, you don't generally need to, and you're putting your fingers there, you could actually nick the tops of your fingers, couldn't you? So really need to, it's a prototype anyway, but you know, really need to have another little block of wood like that, which effectively is a guard, but also stiffens up the actual jig itself. So these do the same thing up here. Yeah, but it works. So I'm quite happy really. So anyway, how would you do it? How would you cut the slots for a louver shutter? Me, there's 2 ways of doing it. One is that is either using the router jig, which I found it was okay, but I found the router was a little bit dulled quite quickly, and I was using the pattern bit, and it wasn't. It was okay, but I keep getting breakout. Accumulatively, as long as you make your jig well, you're not going to get any accumulative error because it'll just be the same for every single one. But with the actual breakout, I was doing my nutting. I was forever having to glue little tiny bits of wood back in. So basically, when the route was coming along, the bit was coming along here, these corners are really, really vulnerable. And just take a great big chunk out of your the louver slot. So anyway, you tell me how you do yours. Please click the like button, maybe subscribe to the channel, and got a bell icon, because then you get a warm fuzzy feeling in your pocket every time I upload another video. Yeah, toodaloo.